Tonight, the horrific crash of a passenger jet. What brought the plane down en route to Russia? After it strayed off course.
We do believe the boat was at the fuel docks near the fuel pumps.
A Quebec man killed in a boat fire.
One guy was on fire, another person was in the water. I mean, it was just like chaos.
The explosion that rocked a Florida marina, igniting an inferno. And the light show on the Big Island.
It's really pretty spectacular viewing.
Fountains of fire blow sky high from Hawaii's Kilauea volcano.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina. Reporting tonight, Mirella Fernandez.
Good evening. A plane has crashed in Kazakhstan, killing at least 38 people. Amazingly, many others survived impact. But there are growing questions about what brought the jet down and why it diverted hundreds of kilometers before crashing. The landing gear was out when the jet smashed down and burst into flames. Flight J8-8242 left Baku, Azerbaijan early in the morning, heading north for Grozny in Russia. But after declaring an emergency, the jet went off course right across the Caspian Sea, coming down in Kazakhstan. CTV's Alex Carper tonight on the crash and the criminal investigation now underway.
Video shows the plane descending rapidly and then bursting into flames on impact. First responders arriving at the scene scrambling for survivors, a massive part of the plane's fuselage intact and upside down. The Azerbaijan Airlines flight was on its way from Baku, Azerbaijan to Grozny in Russia, but was diverted due to fog. The airline caught fire attempting to make an emergency landing near the Kazakh city of Aktau, where it crashed. This Kazakh official says there were 67 passengers, including 5 crew members on board, with majority of the passengers from Azerbaijan. Kazakh authorities say at least 38 people have died and 29 survived, including 2 children who were taken to a nearby hospital. Russia's aviation watchdog said preliminary information suggests the pilot had decided to make an emergency landing after a bird strike. Later in the day Wednesday, Azerbaijan's prosecutor general's office said in a statement that it had opened a criminal investigation. The airline has also since suspended flights from Baku to Grozny and Makhachkala in neighboring Dagestan until the investigation is complete. Azerbaijan's president declared Thursday a day of mourning for the victims. Kazakhstan's government has set up a commission to figure out what caused the plane crash and said in a statement they will work with their Azerbaijani counterparts during the investigation. Alex Carpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Russia has intensified its attack on Ukraine, killing at least 1 person and leaving over 500,000 without heat for their homes. The Christmas attack targeted many fuel and energy sources. This is the 13th attack on Ukraine's power grid this year, as the war nears its 3rd year anniversary. A search for answers is underway in Florida after a Quebec man was killed in a boat explosion. This happened in Fort Lauderdale. The boat was at a marina right by some fuel pumps on a dock. Now, investigators are asking if that had anything to do with the blast. CTV's Kamal Karamali reports.
Video footage captures the moment. A ball of fire nearly splits this 12-meter boat in half in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, around 6 p.m. Monday.
I hear some sort of boom. I turn around and it's just engulfed in flames.
People nearby rushing in to help, describing a horrific scene.
One guy was on fire, another person was in the water. I mean, it was just like, it was like chaos, like all at once.
You can see one of the Good Samaritans here carrying someone away to safety.
The people that we pulled out of the water, they had burn marks on their arms, on their legs. I mean, it was glass everywhere.
7 people were on board. 1 person killed, a Canadian now identified as Sebastien Gauthier, a 41-year-old man from Montreal. 6 others were taken to hospital, 3 of them with traumatic injuries. Authorities say the boat was near fuel pumps.
We do believe the boat was at the fuel docks near the fuel pumps. We're still determining was it actively fueling. That is unknown.
and that it exploded after its engines were started. The boat drifted close to another vessel that also caught on fire.
There's 2 boats on fire.
Dramatic helmet cam video from firefighters shows the swift response.
Open it up.
Rushing to put out the flames and contain the fuel that spilled into the water. What's left hours after the blast, the charred and blackened remains of the vessel submerged underwater, as investigators now hoping to take a deeper look into the cause. While that investigation is taking place, Global Affairs Canada says it's working with officials in Miami to try and provide information and support to the family of the Canadian killed. Marilla.
CTV's Kamal Karamali. One of the world's most active volcanoes has kicked it up this Christmas season. Kilauea volcano on Hawaii's Big Island propelled lava 90 meters into the air, while crowds watched from a safe distance. Authorities say there is no danger to nearby communities. A deeply personal Christmas message by King Charles hailed the efforts of healthcare workers after a year of health challenges for the royal family.
I offer special heartfelt thanks to the selfless doctors and nurses who this year have supported me and other members of my family through the uncertainties and anxieties of illness, and have helped provide the strength, care, and comfort we have needed. I am deeply grateful, too, to all those who have offered us their own kind words of sympathy and encouragement.
Coming up, a political party in peril.
We're not united. There's still a number of our members who feel we need a change in leadership. I'm one of those.
Looking back at what led the Liberals to a crossroads. The Prime Minister has come to a fork in the road. He's promised to reflect this holiday season on whether or not to step down as Liberal leader. CTV's Mike Couture looks back at the twists and turns that led Justin Trudeau down this path.
6 more years. Questions about the Prime Minister's leadership started early in January and persisted throughout the year. Newfoundland and Labrador MP Ken MacDonald was the first to say a review was needed.
Are you losing support in your caucus?
Good to see you guys. That feeling seemed to fester for months. Throughout the year, the number of MPs calling for Trudeau to step down only grew, as the Prime Minister's personal polling numbers continued to sag. There were a number of attempts to change the channel and improve the party's polling numbers. The Prime Minister renamed the Climate Action Incentive Payment, hoping to reframe the consumer impact of the carbon tax by giving it a new name, the Canada Carbon Rebate. But it did little to sway public opinion, and it further emboldened the opposition Conservatives.
Why not allow Canadians to vote to axe the tax?
As the fiscal year came to a close, the Liberals attempted to reset their economic agenda with a budget that prioritized spending on housing, pharma and dental care, as well as a school food program. To pay for it, the Liberals increased the inclusion rate on the capital gains, claiming it would only affect 0.13% of Canadians. The government also took heat for how it handled foreign interference. Justice Marie-Josée Hogg led the public inquiry that included testimony from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, his staff, and national security advisors.
We have a role to play in asking questions, on thinking critically.
Intelligence reports deemed Canada a, quote, low-risk, high-reward target because there are few legal or political consequences if you are caught. Months later, the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians released a report saying MPs or senators wittingly or unwittingly colluded with foreign governments.
What they're doing is unethical. It is, in some cases, against the law, and it is indeed they are indeed traitors to the country.
Later in the year, Canada took action on alleged foreign interference, expelling 6 Indian diplomats, including the High Commissioner, who was identified as a person of interest in the assassination of Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. In a year where the Prime Minister tried to assert Canada's sovereignty, his grip on the Liberal Party was put to the test. The Liberals lost 3 seats in by-elections, notably in 2 historic strongholds on the island of Montreal and in downtown Toronto. In both, Trudeau's unpopularity was seen as a direct cause.
They've ripped up the supply and confidence agreement.
Seeing their alliance as a potential liability, Jagmeet Singh withdrew the NDP from the 2-year-old supply and confidence agreement, meaning the Liberals could no longer count on their support. It further fueled speculation that Trudeau should step down, even as he appointed Mark Carney as an economic advisor at a caucus retreat in Nanaimo, BC. Despite that, the chaos in caucus continued, with some MPs even openly demanding a secret ballot vote to oust the Prime Minister.
Oral questions.
Further compounding matters, the Conservatives continued a filibuster in the House of Commons as the Liberals refused to hand over documents related to a now-defunct green tech fund. It paralyzed Parliament and forced the Liberals to negotiate with opposition parties to pass the 2-month GST holiday, while a plan to give $250 checks to working Canadians remains in limbo. Chrystia Freeland had stood by those proposals, but after being told she'd be replaced as finance minister, she released a stunning resignation letter where she criticized the Prime Minister for costly political gimmicks. She quit as finance minister the same day she was scheduled to deliver the fall economic statement.
I'm happy to be with my family.
Her departure reignited calls for the Prime Minister to step down, with even more Liberal MPs publicly asking Trudeau to walk away.
We're not united. There's still a number of our members who feel we need a change in leadership. I'm one of those.
All the while, the threat of 25% tariffs on all Canadian goods going into the U.S. continued to hang over the Prime Minister. President-elect Donald Trump made the threat on social media shortly after winning the American election. Hoping to convince him to change course, the Prime Minister, Dominic LeBlanc, and advisors flew down to Mar-a-Lago. It was there that Trump mused if Canada's economy cannot survive without being subsidized by the U.S., then perhaps Canada should become the 51st state. Following Freeland's departure, Trudeau announced a cabinet shuffle at the end of that same week. 4 ministers were reassigned and 8 backbenchers were promoted into cabinet.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
The Prime Minister said little to reporters and did not address his future. However, Trudeau is said to be giving it some serious thought over the holiday break. Mike Lecouteur, CTV News, Ottawa.
The Liberal minority government managed to stave off a snap federal election this year, but Canadians cast their ballots for their provincial leaders this fall. 3 provinces, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and Nova Scotia, re-elected their premiers for a second term.
Thank you, New Brunswick.
But a historic election in New Brunswick saw Liberal Susan Holt become the first female premier by defeating progressive Conservative leader Blaine Hicks. And a record 17 women were elected to the Legislative Assembly. Straight ahead, answering the call from an unknown number. Why some in Eastern Canada are picking up prank calls. In an age dominated by emails and texts, the art of picking up a phone seems to have taken a back seat. But for one Canadian content creator, polite chit-chat with strangers has become a calling card. Here's CTV's Heather Wright.
Hello?
Hey, you, how are ya?
Not too bad, and you?
They are perhaps the nicest prank calls. And what's for dinner tonight?
Oh, I don't know. Codfish.
Jax Irwin, a radio and podcast host, dials random Nova Scotia numbers to see how long the person on the other end of the line will chat.
Well, I wanted to check in. I heard you guys are getting buckets of rain.
I couldn't believe it.
The idea started during a trip back home to Dartmouth, Nova Scotia this summer. Irwin now lives in Toronto, but she was feeling nostalgic for the East Coast.
So I was like, why not call the White Pages? It kind of just spiraled.
Millions of people have now watched videos of the calls.
Did you get fries?
Irwin's East Coast accent quickly charming the stranger who happened to pick up.
I think that through the pandemic, especially, there was such a loss of connection in so many ways. And sometimes it's nice just to chat about how the weather is, what's for dinner, and how you're doing.
Irwin says if she senses any hesitation or confusion in someone's voice, she will say wrong number and hang up. Irwin says she enjoys these calls and connection it gives her to friendly strangers.
In a world that sometimes feels a bit dark and isolating, it's nice just to talk to people.
So if a blocked number calls you, you might want to answer.
Is it starting to pour there, or how's the weather?
No, weather's okay here right now. It's clouded over, but
You never know who might be on the other end of the line. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
Straight ahead, a holiday send-off from all of us here at CTV News. We leave you tonight with a note of thanks to all of you for watching and to all the CTV National News staff who work hard every day to make this happen. Our writers, editors, camera people, producers, chasers, so many others. It takes a team to pull this off. We would like you to meet some of them as we say goodnight. I'll see you tomorrow.